When I first got your tape and played it, I thought, oh heavens, I wonder if they bombed Canto again. And then I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, thank heaven he's out of there. But it was good to hear your voice. It's so much better than a letter. Of course, I don't know whether this is going to work. This is a trial run for me, and see how whether I can fill it up or whether I can make it work or not. You know, you kind of forget. It's been quite a while since I fooled around with this thing. There was a time, when I could take the thing apart and put it together again. But we shall see. Now, it was good to hear your voice, all of you, on Sunday. I waited and I thought, well, since I missed your call on Easter, I wasn't going to miss it on Mother's Day, so I told everybody that I was just going to stay home and wait. And I'd prepared to stay home and feel real sorry for myself, and it didn't work out that way. First of all, Alan came over about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just as soon as I'd gotten dressed, and wished me a happy Mother's Day. And then, just as he left, then Taylor came over. Oh no, first Ed came with Johnny, and he said he came to wish me a happy Mother's Day. And he stayed, and I made him a cup of coffee. He isn't drinking anything these days. And then while he was still here, Taylor came to wish me a happy Mother's Day. And I mixed him a drink, and then Taylor left. And Ed said, now, what are you going to do for dinner? And I said, why, I'm going to get dinner here. And he said, oh, no, you're not. And I said, well, I'm not going to leave until I get a call from the kids. And he said, well, if you get a call, would you go up to Walt's for dinner? I'm going up there for dinner. And I said, no, you can't do that. You can't just barge in on somebody like that. And he said, well, you can, and you're going to. So your calls came through, and then just as soon as I got through talking, he went to the phone and called Walt and said, I'm bringing Geneal up for dinner. And Walt said, fine. And so I went, and it was nice, the three of us. And we had drinks, and he had a lamb roast and everything that goes with it. And so it was very nice indeed. And then, let's see. Oh, it's been such miserable weather. I haven't even been outside. I don't know what my vegetables are doing or my garden. It has rained solidly for 2 weeks. And today, thunder showers and hail and wind and slush. And the lilacs are hanging like big purple plumes out there. I'm just dying to get hold of them. It's the first time in 4 years we've had any lilacs, but I couldn't bring them in this kind of weather because they'd mildew. And they won't dry off in the house because they won't take it. And the weather outlook says the same thing for the next 30 days, so I don't know. I may get the terrace fixed up just before fall, but I doubt it. But I'm getting awfully sick and tired of this kind of miserable, nasty weather. Here it is, the middle of May, and we've had about, well, I'd say not 1 week of sunshine this whole spring. It's just simply awful. We're about a month behind what we were last year, and last year was an awful year. Oh, Mike and Ruth, dear, I got your lovely box, and the dress is just darling. I tried it on right away, thinking that if it didn't fit, I'd send it back, but it just fits perfectly, and I couldn't be more delighted. Thank you both so much. That'll be a wonderful dress all this summer, and especially when I go down to Leeson and Parasols, because you need something with a little bit of sleeve in it. It's better. And I am just delighted. And Pat, dear, thank you for your great big generous gift. And I also got the cigarettes. So what a Mother's Day I had. It's simply lovely. Ward called me yesterday and said his mother died. He called me from the hospital. She died about 30 minutes before he had called. That's the first word I've heard from them since you and Ruth were here, Mike. And he said he wanted to ask a favor of me. He wanted me to, he said apparently you have some strings down at the Tribune, and I wish you'd use them because we feel that Mother was of enough importance that she deserved a story something like Don got. Well, I didn't quite agree with that, although I didn't tell him that because, after all, she was, I suppose, a lovely woman. I never met her. But what had she ever done? I mean, she was just a little uh, mother, same as we all are, and good LDS, and she worked in the ward. But I thought maybe it might work on the strength of his reputation, but I wasn't going to call Jack Gallivan again. I thought that would be running it in the ground, so I called, oh, wait a minute, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of it now, but anyhow, it's one of the men that Dad knew down there who's now executive editor, and finally got him and told him the story and asked him if he would arrange to talk to the city editor and that Ward would bring the story down, and he did, and I guess it worked because there was a very nice long story and her picture in the paper today. But I hope everybody doesn't get that idea because I'm not going to keep that up. I said I hadn't heard anything from Virginia, and he said, well, we understand you've been away. And I said, yes, I've been away a month, but I've been not too well. And he said, well, I'm sure Virginia didn't know that. And I said, well, I'm sure Virginia did because I talked to Flora, and Flora's been up here. And he said, well, I hope you'll understand that we've been awfully busy. And I said, well, so have I. I'm not able to go anyplace anyhow. I gave him a long story like that. So I don't know. I don't know whether to send flowers. I guess I ought to on Ward's account, but I've never met her and I don't know her. That sort of thing. Ed came in yesterday afternoon and he said, I'm taking you out to have a horoscope reading for you. I have an appointment for myself, but he said I'm going to change it. She's awfully hard to get hold of and to make an appointment with, and I want you to have it for your birthday. And I protested and all that, but he said, no, I've made the appointment and changed it, and I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock. So he did, and I went over there, and she gave me a horoscope reading, which wasn't much. It was all right. I think she was a very interesting person, but nothing like May Ray used to be, and of course didn't tell me anything that I didn't already know. So a long reading, but part of which I didn't understand because I don't know anything about horoscope. But it was kind of fun, kind of like a fortune telling, if nothing more. Well, I see. I of course still have this touch of diverticulitis. It was more than a touch, I'll tell you that, but I've been taking sulfa constantly, and it seems to be clearing up pretty well. Still have the old arthritis with me, but I did get the yard cleaned up. Not the terrace yet, because it's been too stormy, but the yard. And we had the lawn mowed once. That's all this whole spring. I said to Alan the other day, Steve is in the Navy. He got a scholarship to the U by joining the Navy. And so he can continue his education. Poor kid, they can't afford, I guess, to send him to the University of Utah. But he's going on a cruise this summer, and I said, well, who's going to take care of my lawn? And he said, well, I've been trying to get Scott to do it for you, but Scott's afraid of you. And I said, well, why is he afraid of me? And he said, well, what you said to him when he came over. And I said, what did I say? And he said, well, he came over one day and rang your bell and said, Mrs. Condon, have you got an old chest? And I said, oh, Scott, I sure have. And he went home and nearly flipped his lid. So he's afraid to come back. So Alan said, well, he'd try to find somebody to mow my lawn. If not, he'd come over and do it. Actually, it'd do him good because he's so fat. You can't conceive of how much he's gained since you were here. And he's developing a terrible inferiority complex because of it, and yet he won't do anything. He says he's so nervous at night that he snacks all night long, eats things, sit down and eat a jar of cheese and a package of crackers, and then get up and eat something else. And then he wonders why he's fat. Well, I've been busy all day canning flowers. There wasn't anything I could do outside, so I brought some lilacs in. It didn't matter if they're a little bit damp. And did some little clusters of lilacs and some more violets. Those I sent you were not any good, I know that, but I've done some better ones since. And I thought I'd kind of experiment along as I go and see if I can do anything with it. It's a very good recipe. After trying all the rest of them, I had to go back to the 17th century to find something that really worked. After writing all those letters to the embassies, which I did, about 35 of them, I've had replies from nearly all of them, except the Russian. I haven't heard from them yet. And but they've all sent me recipes. Oh, I've got recipes galore from every country, but not one with flowers in. Just the regular printed stuff they send out. But I've had fairly good success on the replies from the clearances on the magazines and books. One, a Condé Nast, that I wanted a clearance for very badly. There were some recipes by this Ewell Gibbons run in the magazine and one in his book, Stalking the Wild Asparagus. Well, the magazine wrote and said, no, they couldn't possibly let me use them because they'd planned some further publications of his. Then I got a letter 2 or 3 days later addressed to General Condon, and it said, Dear General, upon second thought, if you'll tell us exactly what you want to use, why, maybe we can determine whether we can give permission or not. So I don't know whether to, I'm going to answer it, of course, but I don't know whether to sign it General or not. I may not get a reply if I don't. It might work, you know. So maybe I'll just scrawl it so they'll never know what it was. You know, I'm toying with the idea of making an investment. This German workman, Fred, that comes around occasionally and brings me things, may be moving to Denver. And he has a car, a 1956 Pontiac car, which he says he's going to sell for $150. Well, he is so thorough on everything, and he's put so many new parts in it that you can just bet that it works very, very good, as he said. And I might just do that if he puts it up for sale. Anyhow, I said, now Fred, don't go sell it until you let me know first. And I might buy it. And if I did, then I'd call up the police department and get them to teach me how to drive. They'll stay with it, you know, until you learn. Cost me about $35, but I'm just toying with the idea. Particularly, if I work quite a lot this summer, I could pay for it in one session time. And it'd relieve me an awful lot of this inconvenience of never having any way to get any place. You see what I mean? I'm dying to hear about Celia. You said she was up at New York picking out a ring. You know, she didn't want a diamond. I wonder if what she got. For heaven's sake, tell me. I'll be very, very curious to know. I've had a couple of requests for teaching. A couple of pupils called me up and wanted to know if I was going to start a class. And I told them no, I wasn't going to organize a class, but if they were interested in taking it, if they'll bring me 8 to 10 pupils, then I'll teach it. So they said they would try, and they thought they could. So I might do that. I could do a class now, and then one in the fall without too much difficulty. If if they'll do the legwork, that I can't do. I can't hang on that phone for 8 hours a day for 2 weeks to try to get 8 pupils together. So we shall see. I'm awfully concerned about all of you back there with this poverty march uh, getting underway and accumulating. I think that at the end of the summer, before the end of the summer, I'm afraid you might find that you have a lot of trouble on your hands there. For heaven's sake, all of you stay away from Washington down the district as much as you can. It could get pretty rugged, and I think everybody's predicting that it will, including the colored people themselves. Well, this tape's about finished, and I guess I'd better get ready and go to bed. That's all there is left. Make me another one because I sure love them. And sometime when you're together, the two families, I'd love to hear all your voices. And then I'll send you another one. Actually, it's really easier than a Sunday night, and I'm alone. And this is going to be a long, probably slow record to you. I don't care if anybody else hears it, that's fine. But it's made primarily for you. I've had this recorder on for a long time thinking what I could say to you. And every time a thought comes to me, I say, no, not that. That isn't it. If I said that, she'd think I was sentimental or dramatic or over impulsive. No, I can't say that. But what can I say? I wrote down a few notes, and I thought, oh no, not that. No, that isn't it. That isn't Pat. So finally I said to myself, oh, what the hell? I'm going to sit down and tell her just the way it comes to me. I may be a Sarah Bernhardt, I may be overdramatic, I may be sentimental, I may be this, that, and the other, but what matters? I've got to talk to my little girl. Yes, I got your letter. And I don't blame you for crying, because I did too. I've cried since. Lots of times. I've worn it out. Now, why should I cry? You cried. So did I. But for different reasons. Yours, I know, was out of surprise and humility and gratification. Mine was for different reasons. I cried because I knew that at last you were being appreciated. This wonderful, wonderful person was at last being appreciated. That she could step into the lives of these girls, and oh, I had a taste of it. I saw what they were. I knew that they were the tops, but that you could go in 4 short years, you could make this impression upon their lives. Now, this is no surprise to me. I knew you could do this, but it was the fact that you did it, and the fact that they finally realized that you could do it. And this was so gratifying to me, because I knew all along you could, that you were this type of person, and that you would do it, but you did it. My one regret was that your father wasn't alive. And yet, it isn't a regret, because do you know what? I shudder to think how he would have cried. Isn't it terrible when you realize that the really great, beautiful, worthwhile things make you cry this way? Not, oh, good Lord, not in sorrow,
It's the joy of them. The realization, the fulfillment that finally comes to a point of realization. Oh, here I go again. I've got to stop and think what I can say to you, my darling. How can I tell you how proud I am of you, how wonderful you are, without becoming maudlin? First of all, let me say that I think that the way they did it, the handling of it, was so superior, so full of taste, so sophisticated, so cultured, so reserved, with all of its distinction and dignity that anyone could ever ask. You deserved it, but they recognized it and they gave it to you. You know, I'm on right now, to change the subject, I'll leave that for a minute. We'll come back to it, because I just want to talk to you tonight, that's all. Just to you. I'm on a Hemingway binge. I don't get much time for reading. I have too many other things that I do, and it takes me too long to do them. So the only time I get to read is when I go to bed at night. And right now, I'm reading Hemingway. I'm listening to him on the TV, that is his plays that are being redone. And I want to read everything that he wrote. So I very blithely said I expect to spend the next year in bed with Hemingway. Ugh! Everybody gasped. I said, all right, that's the only time I can have. And that's what I expect to do. So right now I'm reading Papa Hemingway by Hodgner. Do you know the book? Well, if you're an admirer of Hemingway, you ought to read him. One quotation I like very much, it's from Death in the Afternoon. He says, "There are some things which cannot be learned quickly, and time, which is all we have, must be paid heavily for their acquiring. They are the very simplest things, and because it takes a man's life to know them, the little new that each man gets from life is very costly, and the only heritage he has to leave." Somehow, this is what I'm trying to convey. This is what I had reference to. I can't think offhand of anything that I have learned, anything that I have gained or possessed, that could halfway be as precious as to have known you, Pat. Now those are the simplest terms that I can put it in. To have known you, and which I did to know from a baby, and nobody quite knows you as I know you, because you had all the marks of greatness from the time you were a baby. I recognize this. We'll say nothing about the years that I went through in agony with you, but all the time I knew that you had it. You were so great. You were so worthwhile. You proved it as you went along, and you have more than fulfilled any dreams or expectations that anybody, including me, could have had for you. When a mother has to bow her knee to a great, great child, I wonder what you were in another life. I wonder who you were. You know, I'm a great believer, a firm believer in reincarnation. It's the only plausible excuse for life in this world. Who were you? And where are you going? And when I ask myself these questions, I stand in awe, because nobody has ever met a greater, more beautiful, gracious creature in all the world. I don't care who they are. I've seen them all. Low, high, in between. You are the most. The most. And this isn't just mother love. This is a pretty cold, clinical look. And you have it, my darling. You have it.
I have 104.
You know, one time you said to me, Pat, Mother, I think you love Mike more than you do me. And I said, Pat, don't ever say that again as long as you live. Because you know, if you will remember, that no child was ever born, ever, that was loved any more than you were. And you said, Mother, I'm sorry. I know that. I'm sorry. I will never say that again. Now, that doesn't mean that I love one any more than the other. My God, if I were to choose tomorrow, he has everything in the world. Some things that you don't have. He's just as great as you are. I think I've got the two greatest kids in all the world. But you have other things that he doesn't have. You are a perfect complement to each other. There is no choice between you. Except as I treat you individually. When I think of you, I think of the greatest gal in all the world. There's no possible exception. When I think of Mike, I think of the greatest guy in all the world. There's no other to compare with him. This is the way it has to be. One has one thing, one has another. There's no difference in love. I love you both equally. But how to get this over to a child, that there is that, well, you know, you're a mother, you know that there's room in your heart, and there is no distinction, and there's no loving one more than another, except that you take them individually, and you find out that this one has certain qualities, that this one maybe has other qualities. They're not alike. They're equally great. There's no difference. Absolutely no difference. So never, never let this enter your mind that there's any difference at all between you. You wouldn't have it any other way, would you? Do you mean to tell me that you would say that you love Celia more than Christine, or vice versa? Of course not. But you appreciate their individual qualities, and the love is exactly the same, beyond all bounds. This almost sounds like a Mother's Day talk, doesn't it? Well, in a way it is, because this is my Mother's Day. The day that I got this wonderful, wonderful news about the honor that had been paid to you. I got one last week from Mike, where he said that he had been chosen to give a lecture to his organization. When you consider how short a time he's been with them, what respect and awe they hold him in, and this distinctive honor that's been given to him, that's kind of batting about 100, isn't it? And then, of course, I have this remembrance, too. Do you remember that the last yearbook of Westminster was dedicated to your father? He never knew it, poor soul, but it was. And to have 2 yearbooks dedicated to 2 members of your family is a pretty damn good batting average, I claim. You know, I'm not bragging, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good average, pretty good batting average. And I think I have just about my share of honors and rewards as far as my marvelous, marvelous family is concerned. And then, too, let's take a look at this. I look around at the other things that are going on in the world, the youth movement, the families that I see, the children that are being reared, and then I take a look at mine and at yours. I think, oh, what a great, great privilege to have been a part of that family. And then I'm a little bit sorry for them, because I realize that these kids, such as you and Mike, and Ruth and Bud, and Celia and Christine, how much harder you're going to have to work in this life to overcome all this hoodlumism and all of the wrongs that are being perpetrated and all of the misguidance that's showing up and all of the lack of direction and the lack of proper home life and the proper direction that is now showing up in this generation. Don't tell me it's a healthy signal, because I don't believe it. I have a couple of editorials written by Max Rafferty, who is the superintendent of schools of California, that I've clipped out of the paper that I'm going to send to you to prove my point. And then I'll look at you, all of you, my great, great little family. I think how rich I am. Well, this is about the end of this side of the tape. Now I'm going to tell you on the other side of the tape what's been happening to me. Not much, but it's been rather nice. We have had the damnedest weather that anybody could conceive of since I last made my tape to you. We had quite a large snowstorm, hail, wind, 4 tornadoes, yes, 4 tornadoes in Utah. They didn't strike here, but they struck outside of Salt Lake, out in Draper area. Wind, rain, 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 more wind, more hail, more snow. I had my beautiful, beautiful garden, everything immaculate. That's when I had my last party. The tree peonies were coming out, 100 on blossoms on one bush, 60 on another, 40 on another, great, big, huge, tremendous, beautiful things. I woke up the next morning, the morning after they came in bloom, rather, and here they were lying flat on the ground, covered with 3 inches of snow and hail and slosh and wet and rain. Everything that I'd planted was flat to the ground. The leaves and the debris and the branches and the stems. I was right where I started from in March. All that work gone for nothing. Well, then I was tempted to think of another quotation from Hemingway. You're going to get a lot of that, I'm afraid, in the future. This is from A Movable Feast. You expected to be sad in the fall. Part of you died each year when the leaves fell from the trees, and their branches were bare against the wind and the cold, wintry light. But you knew there would always be the spring, as you knew the river would flow again after it was frozen. When the cold rains kept on and killed the spring, it was as though a young person had died for no reason. If you've ever become a gardener in spirit and heart, you'll know what this means. You see all these young, beautiful things that are growing and that you've cared for and kept all winter, and you take them out full of expectancy and delight, and in one cold blast they're killed. As if, what was it he said? As if a young person had died for no reason. This hurts. It hurts physically. But I went out and cleared out the debris and sawed off a few limbs that had died and put some splints on the fuchsias whose necks had been broken and whose arms had been fractured. And a little first aid here and there and the other place. And then this afternoon, it was so beautiful and so balmy for a few minutes, about a half an hour. And then my friends came. First, Taylor came, and we had some drinks, and we laughed and scratched and had a wonderful time in the garden, 3 of us. And then Vi came, and she was delightful and brought, oh, what's her name? Mike, you know. Oh, what is her name? That tall, dark girl. I can't think of it at the moment. Wait a minute till I think of it. Diane. You remember Diane? Well, you should remember her because she's been living in California, and she said, Geneal, how is Mike? And I said, well, Mike's fine, beautifully situated and happily married. She said, oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She said, you know, I'm in love now, and I'm interested in a very nice person. He's graduating from law. But she said, there are only 3 people, 3 men in the whole world that I've ever met that I really was interested in. And she said, you know who tops the whole list? Was Mike. Oh, she said, Geneal, how I could have loved that man. Well, I said, I'll write and tell him. These things don't hurt. They always give you a lift. She said, he was the greatest that I've ever met. Well, anyhow, we had fun there. Betty left. Of course, you know Betty leaves on Sunday afternoon. I had some steaks thawed and was going to cook dinner, but no, Betty left. Tinkerbell left after she'd worked in the garden for a while, and I have to go down for some x-rays to the doctor in the morning. I've had a little bit of trouble with my innards, and I was down last Friday, and he couldn't find anything, so he wants to give me some x-rays. So I had to get all of my eating done and all of my drinking done and settle down by 6 o'clock. It's now 7:15. So when I finish this tape, I'm going to go to bed with Hemingway and read until I get sleepy, and then go down for x-rays in the morning. I don't think there's a thing to be alarmed about, except I was having quite a few pains and little bleeding and this, that, and the other, and he wants to make sure, and he's the kind of a doctor that does want to make sure. I think it was just, oh, you know, a little upset from things that I shouldn't have eaten. So there's nothing to worry about, and I'll let you know as soon as I get the results and his verification that everything is all right. Let's see, who else came? Oh, yes, Mrs. Vico came. Bless her heart. She's having a real tough time. I know exactly what she's going through, and she knows that I know, and except that she doesn't have the wonderful, wonderful bunch of friends that I have that keep me going. Vi said today, she paid me the nicest compliment. She said, you know, when I die, she said this to Diane, I don't want to get to heaven. I don't want to go. That'd be a stupid place. She says, all I want to do is go to Geneal's. To me, that is heaven. Because it's always quiet, it's peaceful, it's gay, it's stimulating, and I can be myself. Now, I ask you, what greater compliment could anyone have? Other than that, everything's going along fine. I've written all these letters to the embassies. I got all the replies back in them. Oh, Pat, a most beautiful collection of cookbooks for you. They all sent me exquisite things done in color with all the native recipes, but not a damn flour recipe. So that's that. Now, I have been thinking about Celia. I made an ass of myself by calling her up and congratulating her, and she hadn't even had her final exams yet. She said, Grandma, I don't even have my final exams for a couple of weeks. Well, all right, I boo-booed. I did it wrong. I thought, well, I'll write to her. And I thought, no, I guess I won't. I guess I won't. She'll be so excited that day, and I have a little trouble writing these days. So I'm going to devote the rest of the tape to our little racehorse, Celia. And after she graduates and comes home, which she will, then I want her to hear the rest of this tape as my special message to her after all the trumpets and the processionals and all the falderall is over. And then I want her to know that I was there as nearly as I could be. So, Celia, dear, this is for you. My little racehorse. You finally made it. You know, there have been times when I didn't quite know. I thought, uh-oh, if we can ever get her through high school, if we can ever get her into college, if we can just get her over 17, we've got it made. Well, I didn't know you, did I? I didn't know. I thought I knew, and I guess way down underneath I did, that you had it all the time. Of course you did, darling. You know, in a way, you're an ideal girl. You don't miss any of the bets. You're a halfway between. You live life to its fullest. You're cognizant of all the values that have been taught you, that you've seen, and that you knew. And so you've been weighing between these two balances. And the best of you won out. You've come through with flying colors. And oh, I'm so proud of you. And I love you so much, Celia, you'll never know. You two girls, you and Christine, of course I said this on the other side of the tape, but this is for you, and you and Christine, and then later on for you. You are the greatest gals. Christine is going to do great things, and you have done great things, and you're going to do greater things. When I think of you all your life, from the time you were a baby, you were something very special. You wouldn't remember them, but I sit and laugh, and you've become a byword with my friends. I mean, some of your baby expressions have lasted and will last as long as there's a friend or a relative left. Who didn't tell me at, Grandma, and wooed off a red-nosed reindeer, and the Three Kings, and all of those days, which were so beautiful, and so adorable, and so lovely. And then you grew into this gorgeous, gorgeous person that you are. A little racehorse, that's what you are. But somehow you're a little soulmate to me, and you know that, don't you, perfectly well. They tell you that you're like Grandma. Don't you believe them? You're not. You're Celia, and you're greater than anybody else. You're just greater. You've gone through 4 years of real tough sledding. I know that, but you've made it. At the same time, you haven't missed a bet. You have the ability that your grandfather said never could be done. Grandpa Johnson, he said, now don't try to sit on 2 stools at one time because you can't sit on either. Well, you did it. You sat on 2 stools. And you were big enough to do it, not physically, but diplomatically. And I know that you're going to be just one of the most outstanding people in all the world. You can't help it. It's in you. You've got it. Your life is going to be so beautiful. And you and Bill, and I can't tell you how happy about that. I am. I don't know what your plans are. One time I hear that you might get married real soon. The next time I hear that you're going to take an apartment and you're going to teach school. Fine. Either one of them's fine. It's what you want to do that counts. Also, what Bill wants you to do that counts. From now on, darling, you have to consider 2 choices, not just one. This takes quite a lot of doing. And the sooner you start on it, the easier it's going to be. Because it doesn't matter whether it's Bill or Jim or Frank or Archibald, you still have to do it. So don't consider, now you're a big girl, you're mature, you're educated. Did you realize that? You're educated, you're out of college. You are a woman of the world. Now, you have to start to act that way. And so you consider everybody else, particularly Bill, what he wants. And I'm sure he wants what you want, and you want what he wants. Lovely merry-go-round, isn't it? But that's the way life is. But oh, Celia, how I wish I could have been at your graduation. To see you, now you make me cry, marching up there in your beautiful cap and gown and your glorious, glorious person to get your degree. How wonderful. My grandchild. I thank God for you every day that I live. Every day that I live. I'm so grateful. I don't believe there's a person in the world that's as rich as I am. I know there isn't, because I know that there is nobody that appreciates their family any more than I do. And you, right now, this is your day. You're the one that I'm proud of today. You're the one that deserves all the laurels. Nobody is ever going to surpass you in anything. You're my gal, and you know that. And if you don't believe it, next time I come back there, I'm going to just give you a good tanning on your little bottom, which you probably will deserve. And then I'll just love you to death after I do it. So, congratulations, darling, and all the love in all the world that any grandmother could ever have for a granddaughter. And in addition to that, do you know what? I could pay you a higher compliment. You're a great, great friend of an old, loving lady. Bless you, my darling.
This has been a week of surprises. I'll start out with the most serious one, which happened today. I was down in the basement dyeing lilacs, and I saw the mail truck come. So I rushed up all dripping in purple dye, and there was a tape. So I thought, well, I'll wash the dye off and get that tape if I don't do anything else. I never let a minute go by when I get one. And I opened the recorder. Yeah, there it was. Dear God. I had felt so smug, so virtuous, because the day I got that beautiful dress, I sat right down and made a tape thanking you and Ruth and telling you how lovely it was, and thanking Pat for her very beautiful gift and the cigarettes and all that, and thought, well, at least I've got that done. And there it was. I couldn't believe it. I had to play your tape over twice because I kept thinking, when will they mention it? When will they mention it? And then, of course, finally you did. Well, that was the second error I made. The first one was to call Celia up frantically Sunday. I swear that Pat told me that she was graduating a week from Mother's Day. So I thought, uh-oh, they're all down at school and I won't get them, and I hadn't written Celia. And I finally got her out of bed to congratulate her, and she said, well, Grandma, I don't even have my finals until 2 weeks. Ugh. I know it's coming. I know you're going to have to commit me. I am not slipping. I've slipped. But look, don't send me down to Provo. Pick a nice rest home where there are not too many old people and mostly men, and I'll go willingly. I won't fight. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. But again, let me thank you. Must have thought I was, why, what an ungrateful wretch. Sending me beautiful things like that and never a word. Oh, I could die, but I can't do anything about it except just tell you that I did make the tape, and the night that I did it, I had about 15 letters to write. on clearances, and I made the tape first, and I just plain damn forgot, that's all. I never thought it could happen to me, but it has. Well, let's see. Where was I? Oh, yes. I had a birthday. Last Sunday, Walt's birthday was Sunday, rather. And Taylor's aunt is here from San Francisco. So he called me up and he said, could he bring his aunt up on Sunday for a little drink, that he would bring the liquor. And I said, well, you won't bring the liquor, of course you can do it. And in which case, I'd better ask Mary Louise, because it's her aunt also, and I'd better ask Paul and Alice, because it's Alice's sister. And he said, fine, keep it small and intimate, and we'll be up about 4 o'clock. He didn't ask me, he just told me, and I thought, that's kind of funny. Well, anyhow, I wanted to experiment on some of my flower things. I wanted to do a salmagundi. Do you remember, Pat, I bought that plastic container with all those little compartments in? Well, I'd never used it. So I decided I'd decorate it up with greens and flowers and put 9 things in it. Took some doing to remember all 9 things, but I did, and it was beautiful. And so I got everything all ready and waiting, and the terrace was fixed up. The first nice day we've had on the terrace this spring. Well, pretty soon Ed came in, and I said, oh, Ed, how nice to see you. Taylor's bringing his aunt up. Won't you stay and have a drink? He said, well, of course I will. I thought, oh, smarty. And pretty soon Walt walked in with 24 rolls and 2 bottles of liquor, a bottle of sparkling burgundy and a bottle of bourbon. And I said, oh, Walt, how nice to see you. Will you stay and have a drink, because I'm having a few friends in? He said, oh, sure, I'll stay. So we went out, and pretty soon here came Alice and Paul with food, and here came Joe and Dick Timpson with a present and food, and here came Vi and Dave with lots of food, and Mary Louise and Frank, and wait a minute, who else? Oh, and then Mary Louise and Frank had brought a Vietnamese boy who has just gotten his master's degree up at the university, and they were having him for dinner and forgot about it, so they brought him with them. So we had, I can't remember who else, but it was gay. And they all brought food, and of course we had drinks. They all brought their own drinks, thank heaven. We did break into a little of mine, but not very much. And Frank had brought me a rose bush. So, feeling no pain, we decided that we would plant the rose bush. He would do the planting. So, somebody said you have to christen it. So, somebody went in and got a glass of sherry and poured over the rose bush. And then I said, oh, that's no christening at all. The rose is like me. It doesn't like sherry, but it likes bourbon. So I poured a glass of bourbon over it in the name of Flora and Aphrodite. And then Dave decided, oh, I said, do you remember the time, Dave, when I was out working in the garden and you jumped over the pool? And he said, yes, I can do it again. I said, oh, please don't. I just got my petunias in. So immediately he backs off at the end of the lot and took a broad jump and made it by the skin of his teeth. Not bad for a 65-year-old man, believe you me. Well, the weather was beautiful, it was gorgeous, and we stayed out and had dinner outside, believe it or not, and I served them some candied violets, not the kind I sent you. I'm so ashamed of those I can't see. I've made great progress since then. And they all enjoyed them, and we had a wonderful time. Then they began going home, one or two at a time, and pretty soon Ed came in, said, where's Vi? Don't let her drive. Well, I said, she hasn't had anything to eat or to drink much. And he said, Oh, come quickly. Well, I went out, and she'd parked her car in the driveway and tried to get in on the rosebush side, lost her balance, and fell, and she was all covered in blood. And she had struck her head against that cement piece, that underneath the fence, and scratched herself in the rose bed. I don't know how she ever got out of it, but she did. So dear God, I didn't know whether her throat was cut, whether it had been shot or what, but we got her out, and I got her in and undressed her, washed her up, put her to bed, and called the doctor, and then called Dave. Dave had gone home. And the doctor came, and we finally found the wound in her head. It was about an inch long, quite deep, and one on her back. The doctor suggested that I keep her here all night, which I did. And Mary Louise stayed to help me because she was an awful lot of help. She had proceeded to put my leopard coat on, said she wouldn't take it off. And she'd had plenty to drink. Mary Louise doesn't do it all the time, but she had. And then Betty got awful mad at her and insulted her and told her to go home and shut up and stop her drinking and this, that, and the other. And I lit out on Betty, and Betty went. Mary Louise stayed, and she cried and she cried and she cried. She'd never been so disillusioned and shocked in her life. But she did stay and help me take care of Vi, and then about 3 o'clock, she was feeling so morbid and blue, Mary Louise, she decided to call John. First she tried to call him in New York, and she couldn't get him. And she tried Cuernavaca, and they said he wasn't there, or no answer, rather. And at that time she was feeling no pain, so she said, "You get my brother out of bed." This was 3 o'clock in the morning. "I want to talk to my brother. And you tell him to get out of bed because it's Geneal's birthday, and Vi has bashed her head in, and the children won't go to school. And I want to talk to my brother." Well, operator said, "I'm sorry, madam, but we can't accept an assignment like that." Well, she went home then, drove home. She was all right. I gave her some coffee. But Vi was sick all night, and I kept her all day the next day up until 4 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and fed her and gave her medicine and one thing and another. And then finally she got up and dressed and went home. So it was quite a birthday. Actually, my birthday's tomorrow, and your tape came today. But it's a birthday such as it was that I won't forget very soon. I told Miss Betty that she shall never, never insult one of my guests in my house again. She doesn't drink. She's gotten long blue nose and won't touch a drink, and she sits and counts the ones that other people have, which is none of her business. And I told her off good and plenty today, and she's just fine now, just gay and happy and sweet. She needs it every once in a while, and she's going to get it. And I said, if you ever do that again, there'll be curtains as far as you and I are concerned, because I will not tolerate a guest being insulted in my house. And so that's that. Then they all called up to find out how Vi was. Taylor called up and asked if I would come down and have drinks with him and his aunt tomorrow afternoon, which I'm going to do. I went out in the garden this morning to look at it, and we've had hot, dry winds for 2 days, and everything was curled up, practically dead. So I hosed 5 hours, get everything soaked up, and then the rains came, and it's pouring, and it has poured, and it's going to pour. 5 hours that I need very, very badly on work, but that's why it rained, because I did it. Pat, I'm so worried about you, dear. All the work that's piled up for you. I will be so glad when you take off on that little trip and that little rest that I will breathe a sigh of relief. Sorry I didn't get to talk to you Sunday, but then I'm glad you were at the ballet. That's wonderful. Yes, indeed, I got the pictures, Mike and Ruth, and I have devoured every single feature in the apartment. To say that it's less than elegant and beautiful would be not telling the truth. It's just stunning. And I've shown them to everybody, and everybody agrees with me. I can't wait to see it. Don't know when that'll be, but at any rate, well, I guess it won't be, because you will probably be in your house this fall. I get a kick out of this. You took Celia out to see the house, and she just raved about it. Of course, it hasn't started yet. I wonder about this phantom house that everybody's so crazy about, and they haven't broken the ground yet for it. What do? Go out there and give them a big spiel on how it's going to look and describe it, and then everybody goes into ecstasies? Must be. I don't see how you could take people out to see a house when there's nothing but plain ground there yet. But maybe you can. I don't know. Ward Cameron called me up tonight to thank me for getting an article in the paper on his mother. She died last week. I didn't go to the funeral. I've never met her. And I didn't send flowers because I thought, damn it, I don't know why I should. They are so darned expensive, and not having known her, and I felt that I had probably done more for him by getting the article in the paper that he wanted. He told me he had an article of 18 pages. I said, well, you didn't expect to get that in the paper, did you? And he said, well, I was going to turn it over to them. And then I realized that it was a lot of personal stuff. I said, oh, Ward, they never would have run any more than they did, and they wouldn't have run that if I hadn't known the editor down there. Well, he said he realized that. Ruth, I did wear the dress. Oh, excuse me. I got to get a drink of water. When you smoke down the wrong throat, it doesn't go very well. I did wear the dress Sunday, and everybody raved about it. It's a beautiful dress. I will enjoy it tremendously this summer. And thank you for the check. Bless your hearts. I should send it back to you because with all your expenses and all, you can't afford that, and it's most generous. But having Mother's Day and a birthday come in the same month is just plain not fair. Now, don't do that anymore. Of course, I'll keep the check. I'm delighted to get it. But don't do that anymore. One present is enough. It's silly to have to remember birthday and Mother's Day in the same month. That's too much for anybody to do. Dady wrote me and sent me a check for $25, so I'm in the money. Boy, birthdays like that and I can retire, which I'm doing anyhow. I've been doing fresh lilacs, and I'm doing more candying. I'm really making some progress on that. There's a major breakthrough for me on that. Don't judge by your flowers, because I'm so ashamed of those when I think of what I sent you. But these others are very good. Little pinks and little clusters of lilacs and things of that sort. And I expect to do some little wild roses, which I'll send you later on when they come out. Well, the tape's about gone. Bless your hearts. I hope you'll forgive me for your poor old mother's lack of memory. But don't think that it wasn't, that I didn't appreciate it, because I did, and I thought I did the right thing. But I love you all so very much, and I love the tapes too, so keep them coming. Keep your letters and postcards coming, whatever you do. I look forward to them so much, and they're just